Hello viewers, welcome back to Physiology. I have a good news to share with you. We are a family of 200 plus members today. Keep sharing your encouragement in a similar way. The topic for today is pituitary gland. This is in continuation with the playlist of endocrine system. In case you haven't watched the introductory session of this endocrine gland, please do watch it before you start viewing this session. Pituitary gland is located in the brain. This gland is a very small sized gland, approximately the size of a pea, hanging from the hypothalamus via a hypophyseal stalk called infundibulum. Now, if we look further into details and try to find out the location of pituitary with respect to the cranium, that is the brain box, we will find pituitary is located in a depression called sella turcica along the bone called sphenoid bone at the base of the skull. So the sphenoid bone with a sella turcica having a depression, that is where the small pituitary gland is exactly located. Now let us come to this image on the right. This pituitary gland is divided into two distinct lobes. The greenish larger lobe is the anterior lobe in this image, and towards the right, which is continuous from the hypothalamus and a little smaller compared to the anterior lobe shown in pink, is the posterior lobe. In between the two, there is a insignificant intermediate lobe too. Now we go into further details to see its anatomical structures. You can see here towards the left is the anterior lobe, which is also called adenohypophysis. Hypophysis is the other name for pituitary gland itself. So secretory cells of the pituitary comprise adenohypophysis, and these endocrine cells in the adenohypophysis secrete quite a large number of hormones, while the posterior pituitary is not with endocrine cells. They have neurosecretory cells, and these neurosecretory cells originate in the hypothalamus, where in their cell body, which are usually in clusters, they are called nuclei, and from there it descends down with longer than usual sized axons, comes and fills up into the neurohypophysis. Neurohypophysis doesn't produce any hormone by itself. Rather, it stores the hormone which is secreted by the nuclei in the hypothalamus and brought about by the vesicles present along the axons. Now, since we know that hormones are always distributed directly through the blood, so what kind of blood supply do we have in the pituitary gland? Here you can see superior hypophyseal artery. This is a branch of the carotid artery that comes to the brain. This forms a primary plexus in the area of the infundibulum, or the stalk of this pituitary. Further, it branches and makes a secondary capillary plexus, and after that it can be poured down into the systemic circulation to be taken to target cells for its functional activity. we look deeper into the adenohypophysis or anterior pituitary, which I already told you is made up of endocrine cells or hormone producing cells. These endocrine cells have produced quite a number of hormones which are in this flow chart shown. Here I've made a easy acronym for you, which is PG flat. In order to connect to this word, you can think when you move out of your station and you have to find out a place for yourself. Either you look for a PG arrangement or a flat. So PG flat, where each of this first letter is for remembering one hormone. P for prolactin, G for growth hormone, F for FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, L for LH, luteinizing hormone, A for ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and then we have T for TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Now let us know what kind of actions are done by these stimulatory or tropic hormones. All these hormones who come with the name of stimulatory or tropic hormones, they will show their effect on some other endocrine gland which is widespread in the body. When they are either secreting less or secreting more than required. So that action will indeed be taken by the hormones produced in the anterior pituitary. There is one hormone which is in the name of growth hormone. This is produced in the pituitary and it doesn't go to act upon some other endocrine gland. Rather, it regulates the growth and development of the entire body. Now we go to the neurohypophysis, the part shown in yellow color, continuous with the hypothalamus. Here you can see the neurosecretory cells, the cell body present in the hypothalamus called nuclei, and the long axons coming along the length of infundibulum and entering into the posterior pituitary. These neurosecretory cells itself secrete the hormones and then bring and store it in the posterior pituitary, from where it can be transported to the required target organs. Now let's see what are the organs where it sends the neurosecretions. The first hormone which it produces is ADH, antidiuretic hormone. It produces its effect on the kidney tubules by constricting them and reducing the amount of urine output. While the other one, which is oxytocin, this oxytocin produces an effect on the uterine muscles during childbirth by constricting them so that the cervix opens wider and lets out the baby. More than that, the mammary glands are also activated to produce milk for the newborn. Here the acronym which I have framed for you, this is ADH. ADH for the antidiuretic hormone and OC for the oxytocin. This is not a difficult one, just two of the hormones. So you can indeed remember them, but yet I have done it, the word ADH, which will make it easier for remembrance. Now let's go to the next one. Here we are trying to see how the action is happening through the hypothalamus via the pituitary. This is actually, I have tried to show you a feedback mechanism. Look at this, the middle portion, it's written anterior pituitary, and on the right hand side you have the posterior pituitary. So there are a lot of hormones in the name of releasing hormones, RH being written on this oval arrow coming towards the anterior pituitary. Gonadotropic hormone, releasing hormone. So all of them are coming with the name of RH, means releasing hormones get released from the hypothalamus, which activates the cells in the anterior pituitary as and when required to activate another gland widespread in the body to make its secretion in a normal amount or as it is required to increase or to decrease so as to establish a homeostasis in the body. Now let's see, we have all these that I spoke to you just in the last image, the growth hormone through the somatotrophin. Here it will have action on the liver and on the entire body itself, which will help in the growth of organ and total linear growth of the organism. Similarly, you have prolactin, which will act on the mammary gland and will produce milk for the newborn baby. Then it is thyrotropin, which will activate thyroid gland to produce more T3 and T4 and thus regulate the metabolism or the heat production in the body. Then we have the corticotrophin, which will activate the adrenal cortex and then produce more of cortisol, which will maintain the cell equilibrium and the functioning of the cell, maintaining the iron concentration. Then we have FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. They will indeed affect the ovaries to start initiating the production of estradiol or progesterone in the males, and for females it will activate ovulation. For males it will indeed produce the hormone progesterone. And then we have also some of the cases where it has to inhibit the action of extra production. In that case it will also come with an inhibiting hormone to reduce its production. This is to explain that pituitary gland is a master gland. You have already seen the anterior lobe of pituitary produces quite a large number of hormones, which are again written here. I won't repeat it again, but indeed you can see these hormones from the pituitary, not only anterior, even from the posterior, are activating different glands or cells throughout the body, and they are helping them to work efficiently in order to bring about an equilibrium in the body or to allow them to make proper and normal secretions. That is why, since the effect is widespread and the control throughout the other glands is brought about by the pituitary, generally via the tropic hormones, that's why the pituitary is called the master gland, since it controls and coordinates all other endocrine glands in the body. When secretion from the pituitary is not at the level of normal required amount, it can either be an excess secretion which it produces leading to hypercondition, or it can be an undersecretion of the hormone bringing about a hyposecretory condition. Let's see what it results into. This is the excess of growth hormone which has led to gigantism. Growth hormone which is produced from anterior pituitary, if it is produced in extra amount, it leads to elongation of long bones in the body, basically the limbs, and also to some extent the facial bones as well. This is what is called gigantism. You can see in this image compared to the lady who's of a very normal size, the man is looking much taller and his limbs are a little not in proper proportion. This is a case of gigantism. The height usually comes about 7 feet. Only then we get to know that it is not a very normal case of the GH secretion. If there is an excessive production of growth hormone suddenly occurring after adulthood, this leads to a condition called acromegaly. Its symptoms are enlarging of the limbs by the long bones present there, and an excessive growth of the bones on the face, particularly of the jaws. Here in the image you can see the lower jaw or the chin is protruded out, which also gets accompanied by enlarged or broadened nose as well as the lips. Here you can see the image of two dwarfs. They are adults, but their height is like that of a child. This is because of the hyposecretion of growth hormone leading to dwarfism. There are instances which brings about other disorders in the body due to some other hormone which is not secreted in the correct amount. Like ADH, the antidiuretic hormone, which has an impact on the kidney tubules, if they are secreted less or under-secreted, then a lot of water is lost from the body in the form of urine, leading to a disorder which we call as water diabetes or diabetes insipidus. Under excess of ADH being produced, definitely it may lead to hypertension or high blood pressure because of the concentration changes in the body, but it can be recovered if the normal process again returns. You must be wondering why you see images of Lionel Messi on the screen. He is a record holder in the history of football, but he was special from childhood, not only for his talent, but because he was small, too small, smaller than the normal. He was diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency in his childhood. But proper medication in proper time and indeed his determination to come out of it couldn't deter him from what he achieved and proved. With this, we come to an end of today's session. Thank you for staying with me. If you enjoyed the topic and had something new to learn, please do leave a like on this video. Please do share it with your friends, those who find it useful, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you still haven't subscribed it. Happy learning!